everyone. Welcome back to Ion Radio and the Backseat Admiral. I'm John, and today I'm doing something a little bit different. So normally I do these live, and then I can interact with everyone with comments and everything like that. But today I'm going to be doing a pre-recorded video. The reason for this is, for those of you that don't know, my wife is very pregnant, so I'm kind of expecting her to go into labor soon, so I'm just going to pre-record things so I don't have to worry about it. Today we're going to be focusing on talking about our latest episode, Season 3, Episode 8, which was a squadron throwdown. Ken flew Sloane and I flew Riken. And I just wanted to talk about our fleet builds and how I made decisions how we would change our fleets, and then how the battle went down and how it was such a chess match. So let's switch on over to that now. Okay, so here's our two fleets. I haven't really played Riken in a while. I normally am the Sloane player. I've played a lot of Sloane. I've played Sloane competitively when I was actually playing competitively. And I face mainly 50% Riken because he's taken so many nerfs. I played him at his heyday when it was like, here's 6 aces and you won't ever kill a single one of them, and it was quite frustrating. So for those of you who don't know, I'll talk about how Riken has evolved over time, and also Yavaris, which I have included. I believe I've only played Riken one other time on the channel, and that was when I was playing a Nebby gunline. And that was just because Nebbies are super fragile, and I would like to shoot with them before they explode. So let's go ahead and take a look at my fleet. I have here a mix of very small rebel ships and fighters. So let's take a look at my flagship. This is an MC-30 Torpedo frigate. It has General Uriken on it. It has Lando Calrissian, so if there's a bad roll that comes against me, I can toss him out the airlock and force a reroll. I have external racks. If you venture too close to me, I'm going to be throwing extra dice. And then also the Foresight title. What's nice about this is that the redirects will cancel an additional dice at long range. So like at long range, I can spend 1, just spend it, and I can cancel 2 dice. If I really, really want to, I can discard it and cancel 3. And that's really good to keep him alive. And then the redirects allow you to choose 2 adjacent shield zones, which will come in handy later on in the video when I talk about what if Ken had gone second instead of first. But this ship is basically just my lifeboat. It moves around fast. It's an area denial because you don't really want to land next to it, let it shoot you, and then fly off. And yeah, it can put out quite a bit of damage. My next ship is a Nebula B Escort frigate, and I decided to bring... Hold on. I didn't talk about Riken. Let's talk about Riken. What is his ability? So Riken's ability is once per round. When a friendly ship or friendly unique squadron is destroyed, it remains in the play area and is treated as it was not destroyed until the end of the status phase. That's a huge power. And what that means is that you kill a fighter, I'm like, it stays where it is. So that means its bubbles and everything like that stay where it is. So its escort bubbles stay how it is. Its engagement stays how it is, and same with ships. And so what's interesting about that is if there's a Star Destroyer flying in you, you could fly any ship you want in front of it and be like, oh, I guess it doesn't die, and now you can pin a ship where you want it to be. And that is super, super useful to do. I believe I did it in this game, and I pinned a Star Destroyer 1 turn back because he could ram me with a dead transport. Well, that transport, keeping him there, allowed me to score many, 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 many extra points of tokens compared to me just letting him fly away. So trading that transport, keeping him where it is very important. So what was Riken originally? Riken was not a once per round ability. Think about that. All of my stuff stays alive until I want it to die. And it was super, super hard. So it got hardcore nerfed. Also, the ace limit, while it limits fleets like 2 ship for the Imperials, it also helps to limit Riken, because Riken works on unique squadrons. So an interesting thing is, I'll talk about it when we get to squadrons too, but what makes a unique squadron, and what makes squadrons apply toward the squadron limit. Let's jump in now onto the Nebby escort frigate. So I use the Nebby mainly for these 2 blue dice flak. It can put down heavy firepower, and it pushes 2 squadrons. So Yavaris in 1.5 now, when you do a squadron command, each squadron you activate may choose to only attack during your activation, so no moving. If it does while attacking, it may add 1 die to its attack pool of a color already in its attack pool. So this has changed greatly between the original context and now. And what it used to be is you could attack twice. So think about that absurdity. I'm going to double gold squadron into you. That's a lot of damage, and it's divided into 2 different attacks, so defense tokens are even more useless. Or you take something like a B-Wing. Here's a blue-black bomber, and then a blue-black bomber immediately again. It was very powerful. One of the limitations on this that people don't really realize is that the fighters cannot move at all during the squadron. So you can't use like flight control team that allows you to move a squadron after moving, and fighter coordinator to ink up a little bit distance 1 with a squadron and then activate it. It's not allowed. You cannot move whatsoever during the activation of this ship. So take that in consideration. This card didn't do me really any good, mainly because I was more concerned about fighting squadrons and was playing shenanigans on the token, so my fighters needed to move. If I was playing something else, maybe like a fighterless build, I would probably use it, but it is a challenge to get a fighter exactly where you need to use it and then activate it. The dream here is to get like a double black dice attack with Luke Skywalker and get a hit crit twice, and that's 4 damage straight to the hull with critical effects. Oh, that's the dream. But taking comments from our YouTube video and our Discord, there are other things you could put on here. And something else I would consider, because I never used it and it's difficult to use. Because I'm using it mainly as like a flak type ship, you could bring the officer General Draven along, and what he does is while attacking a squadron with counter intel, add 1 dice of any color to your attack pool. So this is like a hard counter against things like droid fighters. This would help against ships like Arcs and A-Wings and TIE Interceptors. So like all those fighters, like you can really put out damage. And so that's a good idea. And then also taking flight coordination teams, which is a card that I just mentioned that allows you to move squadrons unengaged distance 1 after you move. That might have helped. And like on a station, you're like, okay, that one moves up, down, and it's a move, so it gets to heal. So I would consider doing that, and it would increase my bid from 97, which is what it currently is, to up to 398. That 1 point probably wouldn't matter, but it's one of those things that I would have to play this fleet like multiple times to actually determine if that change would be worthwhile. Like the fleet's fine as it is, but that change may require a little bit more. So then next you have a CR90A, and it's got turbo laser reroute circuits, because why not? And then Jaina's Light, because who wants to be obstructed, and it's like the best card for 2 points. Nice and easy. And then you have GR75 medium transports with CommsNet. And the reason why they're here is that sometimes you just want a token. And with Yavaris, it's better to pass a token to Yavaris, or historically it used to be better, to activate more squadrons with Yavaris in 1 activation than for transport to really activate squadrons. So without Yavaris, that changes things a little bit. I don't know what I would use. But what this fleet really needs for the squadrons is Torn Far, and I would need to come up with, I believe, 7 points to do that. So I don't know what I could drop throughout the fleet to come up with those 7 points, but she would be riding on a transport. But yeah, it's just what it is. It's like 5 activations, and they're all gonna just activate things slowly. And if you get the CR90 and the MC30 behind you, you're pretty much done because they have a lot of speed control. Then we go to fighters, and we're gonna talk about the 3 different distinctions of fighters. The first distinction is what I like to refer to as an ace. And what's important about aces is they're a unique squadron. And if you look here, see this little dot? That signifies in Armada that this is a unique unit. You only can have one of a type of unit in a fleet. So, like, let's say the Millennium Falcon. It's Millennium Falcon, and then it's like Han Solo in Millennium Falcon or Lando Calrissian. And because it has this dot here, I can't include another copy of something that has that dot. So if we go back to Lando Calrissian, boop, Lando Calrissian. So that means I can't also take Lando Calrissian on the Millennium Falcon. But I could take Han Solo on the Millennium Falcon because he's a different, unique character. So you are limited to 4 unique with token. Sorry, let's rephrase. You're allowed 1 unique squadron with a token per 100 points a fleet. So in a standard 400-point game, you're allowed 4. It's based off the total points, not actual fleet build. So in this game, I brought 4 unique aces. I like to call them aces. I just think of an ace as a fighter, and it also has defense tokens. So unique defense tokens, unique defense tokens, unique defense tokens, unique defense tokens. That's 4. I've reached my limit. The next type of fighters are uniques that are not aces. So I just refer to them as uniques. And as you can see here, Rogue Squadron is a unique and Gold Squadron is a unique. They lack the defensive tokens, so they don't apply to the limit of 4. And if we jump over here, Riken doesn't care about defense tokens. What he cares about is if it's a unique squadron. So that means Riken can work on all 4 of these squadrons and on these 2 squadrons. So that means if I had one of those squadrons die every single turn of the game, I could keep them alive to the end of the round. So this is kind of the happy place for Riken to currently be sitting. He used to be able to keep everything alive, and it was just absurd. Like, you would alpha strike and kill every single one of their squadrons and then lose your entire squadron ball, because then Yavaris is like, ha ha ha, I'm going to activate 3 of these guys twice and shoot you 6 times after you've killed me. And that's one of the reasons why all Yavaris has taken such a hit and Riken has taken such a hit. So let's talk about why I brought these squadrons. I've decided to run a Biggs Ball. And Biggs Balls work extremely well with Riken because you can keep all of them alive. Like, you're passing damage around to each other, and on top of passing damage around to each other, then you get to just keep things alive. Cool. So we're going to start with Luke. Luke Skywalker I brought because he is an X-Wing, he has Escort, and he has defense tokens. Really good for a Biggs Ball. He also has this ability while attacking a ship, treat the defender as having no shields, which is an interesting way to bomb into someone, especially with a black dice. That's everything goes straight to hull. There's no redirecting. There's nothing like that. Cool. If you get Yavaris off, you get that dream shot of double black, which could be a hit crit, and that's 4 damage straight to the hull. So you could run up to an MC30, theoretically. They would have you reroll, but whatever. But you could theoretically, like, one-shot flotillas and things like that. Well, you could. They would scatter. But, like, 4 damage on a Star Destroyer in 1 turn with a crit is pretty amazing. Then we have, because I'm just going by points, Jan Ors. And her ability is, while a friendly ship at distance 1 to 2 is defending, it can spend your defense tokens instead. Whoa. So if I'm keeping things alive, and I'm passing damage to each other, and I have a squadron that you can't even target the defense tokens and aren't affected by things, that sounds really good. She also has Intel, and Intel has changed from what's printed here. And it is squadrons that are distance 1 of you have grit. So that means if a squadron's only engaged with 1 other squadron, it can still move, which I use to heavy ability in this game. So I'll talk about that when we go into the game and talk about how we're moving around. Then you have the Star, Biggs Darklight himself. He's in an X-Wing. He has Escort. He also has defense tokens of his own. Perfect. His ability is before a squadron with Escort, which is why I'm matching all these Escorts. At distance 1 is suffering one. Bleh, is suffering. At distance 1 suffers damage during an attack. You may reduce the total damage by 1. If you do, choose a friendly squadron with Escort. At distance 1, that squadron suffers damage. So you attack me for 2 damage. I'm like, I don't want that squadron to take 2 damage. So boop, split it and pass it over somewhere else. What works really well is if you're not attacking one of my 3 aces that have defense tokens and you're passing a generic, I can then use Jana Orr's ability to brace it, reduce the damage, split the damage. So the only way you're going to get 2 damage on a squadron in one attack is if you do 5 points of damage. Because if you do 4, I reduce that to 2. If you do 3, I reduce that to 2. If you do 2, I reduce that to 1. And if you do 1, it's just 1 damage. So you need 5+ points of damage to actually hit on the same squadron 2 damage points because of how many braces all these fighters have. So everything becomes super survivable. And you just pass damage around and, oh, that one is going to die. And you rolled 6 points of damage. I guess it just dies. Next attack. Oh, I split it to another fighter. Awesome. Wedge Antilles. Check that out. It's another Escort. It also has 2 braces to keep it alive for a long time. With this combination, you can keep a lot of things alive. While attacking an activated squadron, you may add 2 blue dice to your attack pool. Wedge is one of the reasons why Yavaris got nerfed. Because you could just wait until the entire enemy squadron had killed him off, and then you get to attack twice with him before with 6 dice. That's absurd. So I'm happy with where it lies. So, Gold and Rogue are just here because they're uniques and I'm Riken and I think they're good. So Rogue Squadron has Rogue and it attacks with 4 dice. As you saw in our game, it doesn't hit, but it gets to attack with 4 dice. Gold Squadron, I think, is the most efficient squadron in the entire game. It has 2 anti-squadron attack dice, which is whatever, but it has 2 blue dice for attacking, speed 3, hull 6, bomber, and it costs 12 points. Absurdly good. Almost every time I'm building a rebel fighter list, I include Gold Squadron just because it's one of the best. And it's one of the reasons why I won this game. And then I have 2 generic X-Wings. Why? Because that is Escort, which is between these 2 squadrons give me 10 extra health for my aces. So you attack my ace, I reduce the damage to 2. Boink, 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 and I just keep taking damage off my aces and moving them to my generics. It's very, very good. So that's the theory behind my fleet. I would maybe change out Yavaris because it didn't do anything, and it's not built around that, but that's how you fly it. So let's move on now to Ken's fleet. Ken is flying a Sloan fleet. I have a lot of experience with Sloan, so I'm going to critique it hard from my experience. So, Imperial 2 class Star Destroyer. Good. This is my preferred Star Destroyer now for Sloan. It used to be a Kuat, and the Kuat would have boarding troopers on it to exhaust defense tokens, so I could attack your ship, spend tokens with Sloan, exhaust them away, or just have them exhausted, and then I would have Avenger on it, which Avenger took a huge nerf and is nowhere near ever going to be on a ship again. So I've now reverted back to using an ISD-2. It's just more consistent. Admiral Sloan, awesome. I'll go over her real fast. When a squadron without Rogue, so it takes out all the Rogue squadrons, is attacking, it may spend 1 die with an accuracy icon to choose and spend one of the defender's defense tokens. Ouch. That hurts squadrons a lot. Also, when they're spending it, that means you can't spend it. That token. Cool. That sucks. And then while attacking a ship, you may also reroll a crit icon. So that really helps TIE fighters that are blue dice. You roll. If it's a hit, it's a hit. If it's an accuracy, you spend a defense token. If it's a crit, you get a free reroll. It greatly increases their efficiency. Vanto. I think Vanto is now the must-have officer for ISD2s. It allows you to generate the tokens that you need to run it efficiently. It has gunnery teams on it. So you need concentrate fires, which Vanto can feed in charge. Cool. It has electronic countermeasures, which is good. It also needs an engineering token, which Vanto can help charge. But as you can see now, we're just building up. You're probably going to want to do squadrons. You're going to need nav tokens, and you need concentrate fire and engineering to keep the whole thing. So you need one of every single squadron, and Vanto produces one. So you're going to need something else. You got leading shots, and you have XI7s. Both these cards are good. But I actually don't really take them during Sloan builds because that is right there 12 extra points that I can dedicate to something else. And while it makes the ISD2 very, very good, it may not be what you need in the Sloan build because Sloan needs to be able to more efficiently command squadrons to get her ability off. And if you get her ability off, they shouldn't have any defense tokens for XI7s to take effect on. That's my thinking. So I would trade those 12 points to put into bid or something else. So I feel like this ISD is technically slightly heavily upgraded for a Sloan build. Next ship, we have a Quasar 1 fire or class cruiser carrier. And it is here because of this gorgeous 4 squadron. And let me move this real fast. This, you have weapons and 2 of these, so you can bring these cards along. And it works very, very well. So, flight controllers. Yes, you want more Sloan dice. Boosted comms. Your Quasar wants to be nowhere near the combat. Expanded hangars. Now this 4 goes to 5. Here's where I would put at least 6 of those points that I would take off the Star Destroyer for some sort of officer. There are a bunch of officers that you could take. Grint is one of them. And what Grint does is when you at the beginning of the game, you set a token on it, matching every time you reveal a dial that matches the token that's on him, he gains a token of that. So basically you get a free squadron token every time that you use squadron, and you're going to be using squadron every single time because you're a Quasar. So then you could activate 6 squadrons per turn with expanded hangar. Pretty good. Another option is to take first give me a second, let me look it up. I'm just going to make sure that I'm calling them the right thing, because these start getting into officers that people don't usually bring. Skilled first officer, so that means if you get sliced, you can discard it. That's 1 point, and I think there's better uses for it. I personally prefer taking... It's very expensive, and people laugh at me every time I bring it. And I'm like, I've lost too many games to slicer tools and other shenanigans that spending 6 points on this for me is very, very, very well worth it. And that is, it's one of the very generic. Wing Commander. I bring Wing Commander. It costs 6 points, which is way too much for what it does. But before you reveal a command, you may change that command to a squadron dial. So when I run this, I actually run it really, really weird. I have straight navigation. And then before I reveal each dial, I decide if it's going to be a squadron or not. And the reason I do that is because the Quasar is a really, really squishy ship. And sometimes you're like, the squadron game's already done, I don't need to activate squadrons. It's better to keep your Quasar alive so you can quickly jump out of dodge. Or if you need to, you can just activate squadrons. It makes the planning easy, but then like before you reveal, you have to remember, and you're like, I'm switching this to squadron. So that's how I run them, just because experience at Worlds, I face nothing but like Riken fleets and Radis drops that slice me. So I never, let's see, I played, I think 4 or 5 games. So 2 of them, my Quasar never activated squadrons a single time because I got sliced. And that was rough and brutal. And because of that, that's why I would go with that card. Just food for thought. Next ship is a Gazante class cruiser that has way too many upgrades for my personal opinion on it. So you have munitions resupply. And the reason munitions resupply here is to just feed the ISD concentrate fire tokens so that it can activate gunnery teams. And that's fine and dandy. I prefer CommSnap because I feel that for the most part, I need navigation on both the Quasar and the ISD to power things, and then it gives you the ability to also just throw squadron tokens around, because a lot of times you want your Quasar to activate squadrons, not your Gazante. Because of the flight controller, it just increases the efficiency of spending the 6 points there. So I would take CommSnet. It has a reserved hangar deck, which works well with Sloane because all of her stuff is going to basically be interceptors or TIE fighters, and you're going to be able to get them back. Cool. And then it has suppressor. Suppressor seems like Ken and I actually had a really long conversation about this right after we did the game. He's like, I think suppressor should be more useful, and I'm like, yeah, but it's technically not, because for the most part, Sloane wants to be first player. And with Sloane wanting to be first player, she is going to want to try to alpha strike in her squadron. So the Gazante shouldn't really be in the midst of the fight or close enough for suppressor to take effect. If it is, it's in too far because it's a support ship and you don't really want it there. So suppressor's like an out of place. Like you need to move it first to get it into range, but you don't want it to be in range. But you're going to be activating your ISD and your Quasar first to punch as hard as you can. So it really doesn't work. Like you need a fighter superiority with the Quasar, and then you need to use the Quasar or the ISD to activate squadrons to move against the ships. Suppressor only activates after an enemy moves, so it's like this weird place that all your fighters should be activated, so then you can't really spend them out because of suppressor. So, and it's exhaust, so if you hit them with Sloane first, it's already exhausted. They don't have to spend it then. So let's jump into the squadrons. Merrick Steele is the best squadron for Sloane because of this double blue dice anti-ship and his ability to set to a crit. So if you roll 2 hits, you set to a crit. You re-roll the other one with Sloane. If you get an accuracy, you get an accuracy. If you get an accuracy, you get an accuracy. And if you get a hit, you get a hit. And crits are still bomber, so it's like there's no way to lose with him. It's just 2 damage, or 2 damage, and I spend your defense token. Pretty good. Or if you roll that lucky double accuracy for some reason, you're like, okay, spend that token out, and I'm going to flip that other accuracy to a crit. There is no losing with him. He's great. And that's why you bring then Colonel Jundon. Colonel Jundon says that super, super efficient, there's nothing bad with his rolls, gets to do it twice. Lovely. Then Howl Runner. Howl Runner is here for her buff ability, while another squadron with Swarm at distance 1 is attacking a squadron. You may add 1 blue dice to this attack pool. So that's awesome. And it's while attacking, which also works on counter, which is usually why I bring like anti-counter builds. Like I've hit people with like 5 counter dice in the same turn. Like you attack me with 3 dice, 1 damage. I attack you with 5 dice counter. It's crazy. Like you don't even want to attack the squadrons. She's probably one of my favorite cards in the game. And then 5 TIE interceptors, bringing it up to 8 squadron deployment, which is pretty awesome. So with flight controllers and Howl Runner being in range, you can get interceptors up to 6 dice per attack, and also then up to counter 3. So priority number 1 for fighting a Sloane fleet like this is to kill Howl Runner. However you need to do it, whatever you need to sacrifice. Until you do that, you really can't attack these TIE interceptors because they will murder you. Especially with Swarm. Like my X-Wings are 4 dice no rerolls, and a counter 3 with Swarm is 3 dice with a reroll. So you're going to take more damage probably against you than what you're rolling in against them naturally. And that's the build. So, yeah. And it's technically like 6 TIE interceptors because of that reserved hangar bay is going to bring one of them back for free, which then you have to kill again, which you're going to have to suffer the counter. Which is pretty brutal. So I believe Ken had the bid here and he chose to go first, which is a good idea usually when you're playing Sloane. And I don't. Some people in the comments are like, Ken should have gone second, and I don't know. I don't think I would ever let a MC30 Riken build go first. And we're gonna jump to, where's the damage screen? Why that is. So let's look at this ship real fast. MC30, it has 4 hull, a lot of shields. So with foresight at long range, I go first. I have enough activations that I will guarantee first last you the next turn. So what I do is I sit the MC30 out just at long range. Your ISD attacks me with 4 dice. You get whatever you get. I then say, I'm going to cancel out. I'll just straight up cancel out 3 dice. I don't need the other redirect because my point is to get it in and punch your ISD in the face. Cool. That is no damage. So let's just say I take no damage. Then you move closer to me. I activate it, and I blast you with everything I got, drop speed, and sit right in front of you. Riken gives me the ability of I don't even need to activate that first. I can sit it there for forever. And then what I do is I attack you with all my other stuff. And your ISD then goes, and you hit me again with... That's 4 blue and 3 red. I then can try to re-roll 2 of those dice. And let's just say you get all straight hits. So no accuracies for some reason, straight hits. You then are hitting me and targeting me with 8 damage. I make you re-roll 3 red dice by discarding the evade. That brings the damage. Theoretically, that should be 1 hit out of there, gone. So now I'm getting hit by 7 damage. Then I Lando the entire lot. And you re-roll. At this point, you should theoretically be rolling accuracies, and that lowers your damage to 5. Then I say, hey, Foresight allows me to redirect to the sides, and I have 6 shields on the sides, so XI7s actually really would help Ken here, but he might not have XI7s. So I deplete all my shields on the side, and I still have shields on the front, and I have all hull, and guess what? I sit in front of you again, and then the next turn, I immediately activate him. If, like, let's say if you are unlucky and you kill it, I Riken it, I shoot you, and then the next turn, he's gone. But if you don't, then I just activate him, and I do all my stuff with my other ship. I Riken him to keep him alive, and now you're taking 3 shots from the front and side of an MC-30 at close range. Not good. Not good for you. Like, it's a really big mistake to do first player giving it to a MC-30 player that knows what they're doing with it with Riken. Like, you should be able to hit them 3 times with the side arc. The ISD is going to die. And that's a really good trade because this ship is like less than 100 points and an ISD is 150 plus points. So your mileage may vary, but for the most part, it is usually not advisable to give a Riken fleet first player. Okay, so let's look at the objectives I brought. So I was second player, so Ken has to choose between most wanted, fighter ambush, and superior positions. All of these are extremely good for Riken. Most wanted allows me to say, you can shoot my transport, which is going to give you 9 points extra if you kill it. And I'm going to choose whatever target I really want to die. Like, part of me is like, I'll put it on the Quasar because that's where all the fighter punch is coming from, and that Quasar is going to melt extremely fast. Or I put it on the ISD because extra dice against it's just funny. And that means that every single attack I make it, I can add an additional die of a color already in the attack pool into the attack pool. So that means the CR90 without a concentrate fire could be 2 reds, 2 blues out the front, and a red and 2 blues out the side on each attack, and I get to set one of those red dices to a double. That's really efficient. And then I could concentrate fire on top of that. So that means in 2 bundles, you're going to be hit by, let's see, that's a lot. So that's 3 plus the 6, 8 dice. You're going to get hit by 8 dice from a CR90. That's like 50 points doing a front of a ISD into you in 2 attacks, so then your defense tokens are even worth less. It's amazing. So you don't pick that. And then you have fighter ambush. And what fighter ambush does negatively toward me compared to superior positions is that I don't get to use my fighters to deploy down, so I lose deployments. But I still have 5 deployments, which is still insane. So for the most part, I still get to know where I'm going to be. And then I can deploy squadrons away from me with the obstacles, which I would deploy them a little bit farther forward. I would still be able to very much so control the station, and Ken would still have to deploy during the middle of the battlefield. So not much would change with that, but what would change is that the special rule tokens are only scored against the fighters scoring hull damage, not just shield damage. So that's drastically different. And for my purposes, I would probably usually go for fighter ambush. It's just a little bit better than superior positions. Superior positions makes Ken deploy his entire fleet first, and then any attack from a ship or squadron that goes through the rear hull zone, regardless of if it's being redirected to a side or not, will score a victory token, which is what we see me use. Ken chose that objective to play. So let's see how this all got set up. So I've played enough as Sloan and against Riken to know what I wanted to do. And usually I dump a station farther away or where I think the battle is going to take place. I knew Ken had to do a central deployment, right? Because he's first player, he needs to make the engagement. So I dropped the station practically in the middle of the board, slightly on my side here. And what that allows me to do is I get to keep that station closer to me than Ken and control it while I control the engagement. I have a lot of Escort. You have to attack a squadron with Escort if you can, which is what I end up doing. I have my ships, my attack ships off to the side so they could try to flank around because I want to shoot them in the butt. And then I have my Yavaris ship and my transports keeping close here. Yavaris has the double blue, so this entire region here is a no-go zone, or you're going to hit with Yavaris' double blue. These ships are off-centered slightly, so if your fighters came in to land here, I should be able to get... Oh, I moved that. Hold on. I'm not even on the right screen. Yavaris' kill zone is like here. And then I have double flak with my transports if anything were to land near my squadron, so I can do extra damage with them. Ken has his interceptors split, and it looks like Jendon and Steel are off to the side here. Transport doing its transport thing, keeping it going along the side. So next turn, as you can see, I have moved to take control of this station. Ken has all of his fighters out here ready to strike. So, if Ken moves and controls the station, that's good for me if he moves onto the station, because then I don't have to move and I can attack him with extra dice, which negates the fact that he has obstruction. But he's still obstructed attacking me. If he jumps his fighters over me, perfect. That's where I want him, because this area is a hardcore kill zone of black dice, black dice, black dice, black dice, double blue. This whole area is a kill zone for fighters with anti-squadron flak. So you either have to keep your squadrons on the other side of the station, allowing me to control the station, or you have to come into this death zone. So that gives Ken very, very difficult options. I slowed my combat ships for the most part down to keep out of range. So Ken has no shots here and won't have any shots here until his Star Destroyer gets into engagement range, at which point then I can jump my ships around him. This Quasar is already being flanked, so you can already see that taking place. It has nowhere to go. If it goes in front to try to turn over to here, my squadrons jump on it, and my ships chase it, and the Star Destroyer is stuck back here out of the fight. If it goes this way, it's getting eaten by all my combat ships. So that's kind of like what my plan was when I deployed, was to trap this Quasar and give Ken hard choices what to do with his squadrons. Because, again, if he jumps into it, this is a flak zone, kill zone for TIE fighters. Like, they have 3 health. Black dice, black dice, black dice, black dice, double blue. I don't even need to shoot him with squadrons. They pop. So then you see this next I kept my transports back, and again, that's to maintain this you can't really get behind me flak zone and attack my squadrons. I have very much so taken control of this station, and Yavaris is turning around to engage the Quasar and the Star Destroyer, but I honestly used it for flak. Like, as soon as I get around that station, that's a double flak field of blue dice. This ship stays back because I don't need it to be shot yet. But what I can do is I can start shooting this ship. It moves forward. Now I can jump in next to it and be obstructed. So that's less dice that are going to come at me from the Star Destroyer. This is just really a hard spot for Ken to be. And I've completely taken over the station with my squadron, so Ken can't get onto it. But I can, and I can leave my squadron sitting on it, and I can keep Ken engaged by strategically allowing squadrons to be stuck off the edge with Escort. So that means if he moves near it, he has to attack them, which is great because then I just shift the damage to the squadrons that are on the station, so when I move them, they land on the station and they heal. This is where having the flight coordination team would be nice for the Yavaris, because every time I move the Yavaris, I can regenerate health by being like, that guy scoots, +1 health. That would be really good. That really would have helped me instead of having Yavaris, honestly. So then this squadron battle is going to take place. Ken starts flacking me and starts shooting my Yavaris ship with his Star Destroyer with gunnery teams. That's why you bring gunnery teams with Sloan type Star Destroyers, so then you can shoot ships and squadrons to try to gain superiority. But I kept my stuff pretty much on the station, so then it was all obstructed, which hurts it. And as you can see here, this is where the cluster begins. I have a ship around Ken's edge. I can start scoring points. I have my MC-30 in kill range. Yavaris is helping pin the Star Destroyer because cool. And then my transports are here also pinning the Star Destroyer so it can't escape this way. My fighters are still playing fighter games to clean up the rest of Ken's fighters, and as soon as I do, I can turn my attention completely over to the Star Destroyer. This double arc shot here should be able to take out the Quasar after getting peppered down. This is why Most Wanted is so dangerous. Like, if this ship is Most Wanted, that's a blue and 2 blacks, that's 3 blacks and 2 blues, and I get to add one of each of those colored dices into that attack. And then what I already talked about was the Super CR90. Like, that ship will immediately melt, and I get double points for it. Cool. Or I do that on the Star Destroyer, and it's just like 1 red... obstructed out the front, I roll 1 red, I add a red, I con fire in, we're at 3 red dice, and I get to turn 1 to a double. That's brutal. Now let's go to the next one. Quasar's down, my ships are flying around, and their plan is to cut into the middle. This ship is clearly going to die, but I can say Riken keeps him alive right there, and Ken has nowhere to go, which means that my fighters and my ships can now get behind him and shoot into him. I think this is... yeah, as you can see, it got stuck here. My stuff now can move in and try to bomb for superior position points. This is where taking fighter ambush might be better than taking superior position, because superior position I just need to do a damage into the rear compared to doing a damage to the hull, even though I actually obliterated most of Ken's shields here. That is us forgetting to move the transport because it doesn't matter at this point of the game. Here's the end of the game. My ships are going to fly off, be safe. Ken's ship flies off and is now safe, and I was able to just get into range to Ken to do some last points. So let's look at the final score. Final score here, I ended up killing 159, or sorry, Ken killed 159 of my ships, which was squadrons and the 75 and the Nebby that exploded, and then I killed 161 because I pretty much took out his entire fighter ball and that Quasar. But then you get into victory points, and I just farmed that ISD, had no intention of killing it. I farmed it for 10 victory point tokens for 150 points, giving me 311 to 159 with an MLV of 152. So it's a 3-8. And that's pretty much it for that. Let's see. The Star Destroyer ended with full health, almost no shields. So it would have been a lot closer of a game if... it wasn't superior positions. But the interesting thing about that is I don't like normally attacking. Let's say I immediately got fighter superiority over Ken. Would I have moved my fighters behind him to get superior position points? And my answer is typically no. Which you're like, why wouldn't you want the free points? Because if I table you, it doesn't matter how many points I get, honestly. And I don't want to split firing between different arcs. If I had fighter ambush, what I would have done is probably moved into the Star Destroyer. So then all those fighter attacks would be into the front shields, and then you would remove the front shields and the side shields, and then my ships would be shooting into the front. And then I would be able to get to the hull faster because everything would be focused in shooting the front hull zone instead of trying to split up between different hull zones. So that's what it is. So hopefully you guys like that. I usually interact more with, obviously, people when I'm live. So if you have any comments or things like that, hit me up down below and comment on the video, and I'll answer them, or ask me in Discord, and I'm always around. You can just at me and I'll answer it when I'm available. For this upcoming week, it's going to be, let's see, what episode was this? This was episode 8. Yeah, so episode 9 is going to be another special episode. So the last 3 episodes have been kind of special. So we had, last week we had Trench versus Thrawn, which is a thematic build of who could do fleet-wide dial abilities better. This week it was Sloane versus Riken, and that's who could be a better fighter commander. And next week we have, or this coming week, we have Tarkin versus Tarkin, and who can do ignition better. So Tarkin on one side of the fleet is going to be with Grand Admiral Tarkin and have a bunch of onagers, and on the other side of the battle will be Admiral Tarkin commanding Venators with the Spat token. So we will see ignition versus ignition, lots of ignition attacks, and it's a fun battle because it's like, turn 1 I shoot you, turn 2 we're all shooting each other. So that is something to look forward to. If you haven't already, you can post the video with the Madness fleets. Go check it out. There will also be a picture that will be coming onto our Discord, and then you can just click it, and then you can like fill out your own bracket and then post it into our Discord if you want to. Like, it's just a friendly game of who could predict which of these fleets are going to make it as far as they can. So I would highly recommend checking that out. And then I'm going to call it here. I really miss talking with you guys live. We'll be getting back to that soon. So until next time, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm John. This is the Backseat Admiral, and you have been watching Ion Radio.